I don't know that at its base, work is meant to be fun. I think that we can find fun in our work, but the premise is that we're still working. There's a purpose for it, there's a reason for it, there's a need for it, and it doesn't need to be made fun. I think that as employers, we are better off making work meaningful and giving our team something to connect to than we are trying to make it feel like it's not work. Let's talk about quiet quitting. Quiet quitting is the act of an employee disengaging from their job, usually mentally, but could also be emotionally and physically, only holding the bare minimum requirements or standards in order to still keep their job, but not contributing anything extra. It's an employee and cultural phenomenon that Gen Z in particular has inspired over the past couple of years. And I don't think that everything about quiet quitting is negative. However, as a business that is dedicated and wanting to build and maintain a positive workplace culture, it's an important topic to cover and talk about the ways that we can preemptively and proactively create an environment that discourages quiet quitting. Before we do that, let me take a brief minute to introduce you to my business so you understand why I'm here talking about this today. Welcome to my business, Chez Jeunesse. We are a French-inspired restaurant in downtown Greensboro, North Carolina, and we offer an integrated hiring model, meaning that 50% of our team is disabled and 50% is non-disabled, and we are on a mission to change the way that our world both views and employs people with disabilities. We are most famous, I think, for our weekend brunch, and in specific, our lemon ricotta pancakes. If you missed last week's video, we are starting a series of talking about workplace culture and dynamics. Last week's video was on the role of inclusion in the workplace, in particular, 4 specific leadership techniques and principles to build inclusion for the purpose of creating a dynamic and engaged workplace. So that brings us back to quiet quitting. Why are we seeing this so prevalently in our culture? Well, I do think that our workplaces, especially in the United States, have taken advantage of their employees for a long time. And so we're seeing this cultural pushback. And I think this is one of the benefits of quiet quitting of I'm going to do my job description. I'm going to fulfill the role and the requirements. That's what you're paying me to do. What you're not paying me to do is all of the extra things that are the unwritten or the unspoken expectations that you're asking me to do without being compensated for them, without being appreciated for them, etc. So in premise, I think that that is fair, and it hopefully has and will continue to push employers to providing and promoting healthier and more equitable work environments across the board. Some of the negatives to that are that it is a passive approach. It is not encouraging employees to actually and actively advocate for themselves and to still have a level of individual care and motivation towards doing a good job for the purpose of just doing a good job. So we're going to dig a little bit into today ways that as a business we can establish an environment that encourages our team to be invested, encourages our team to be self-starters and to be motivated and take initiative. I think one of the downfalls or pitfalls that we see sometimes in work environments is this idea that in order to have a team or employees that are engaged, that are excited to be at work, that want to be at work, we just need to make work fun. We need to introduce more company meals. We need to introduce a ping pong table. We need to introduce study pods, like having all of these different ideas for encouraging people to want to be at work. But I don't know that at its base, work is meant to be fun. I think that we can find fun in our work, but the premise is that we're still working. There's a purpose for it, there's a reason for it, there's a need for it, and it doesn't need to be made fun. I think that as employers, we are better off making work meaningful and giving our team something to connect to than we are trying to make it feel like it's not work. As I say all of that, I do want to preface and say that it felt almost odd to come on and make this video today because this is something that I feel like I am wrestling with as a leader right now and wrestling with on my team. And it a lot of times is easier to make content that's more retroactive and speaking to lessons that I've learned in the past and ways that we've then learned how to move forward and succeed in something. And so it feels a little bit tricky to navigate a topic that I feel like I am still actively working out, and also protects the privacy and the well-being of my team because some of them watch these videos. So hi, Shijana's teammates, if you're here. Know that this is something that I'm thinking about. It's something that I'm engaged with, that I want to dive deeper into as a leader, figuring out the ways to inspire, encourage, build up, but ultimately not take on the role of doing the work for someone else or needing to always be the motivator for that work to be done. Point number 1, having a work environment that engages our team and encourages them to be invested can start with a few different things. A big one is allowing employees to have a personal investment or stake in the business or the company. This is something that personally resonates with me and something that's been a big part of my career journey up to this point is being able to work for businesses, and I love small businesses, it's no surprise that I have one, for the intimacy that they create and for the ability and the culture to actually see yourself in that business and understanding that the work that I'm doing today, the ways that I'm using my brain, the ways that I'm using my skills and my time, it's making a difference, it's making an impact, and I can see that, I can feel that. It's not just getting lost in the void. I'm not just another person on the payroll. I'm not just another box to check. I'm actually a contributing member of this team and what needs to happen. And I think that you can do that on small scale and large scale businesses. I don't think it has to be specific to small businesses, but tapping into that concept of how do we allow and enable our teammates to meaningfully contribute to the company, recognizing that their brain, the ideas that they have, the intelligence that they have, the problem-solving skills that they have, the personalities that they have, the emotion that they're bringing into something, the drive that they may have, like all of that is going to be uniquely positioned to that person and can be used as an asset to the business and the team as a whole. We want to encourage and affirm when people bring their ideas to the table, when they're part of problem solving, when they handle a problem and they go ahead and they take care of it, when they exercise their creativity, when they exercise the relational skills that they have in motivating and encouraging other teammates, in rapport with guests. Is something that I see, like we have guests that come into our restaurant that I know are here specifically because of some of the staff that we have that they have forged relationships with, and it's like those guests are here because this person took the extra time to build that relationship, to connect with them. They made the experience. They brought the concept and the experience to life, and that's what someone else is identifying with. And so we as a business benefit from that business because of the way that someone on my team behaved and acted towards them. Another way that we can do this is by allowing our team to have ownership over the role that they have, to feel like they get to add their own flavor to it. They get to infuse their personality into the role and what that looks like in the company. And we can affirm, validate, encourage, support the ways that their unique skill set and personality. This point ties back into what we were talking about last week in terms of inclusion, is not seeing someone as replaceable and instead seeing them as indispensable. The role that they're playing, the way that they're carrying themselves in that role is bringing something special. It's bringing something important to the business, and we want to affirm and recognize and validate that. And then lastly in that is by actually rewarding that hard work and providing incentives for people to work towards. So if we have the standard of this is what the job takes, this is what the requirement is, to allow opportunity for there to be added incentives or added compensation to the things that we're really asking people to do that stretch outside of that basic job description. It allows us to then still stretch and grow our team and stretch and grow what we're doing, but celebrate those wins collectively instead of pushing people towards it and then I reap the benefit as the business and am not willing to share that back with my team. An example of how we do that here at J&S is we are definitely busiest on the weekends for our weekend brunch service. And we recognize that our threshold goal of when we tipped from being like busy to like popping was around 200 covers and 200 guests. We have 44 seats in our restaurant and we're open for 6 hours. So that means we're flipping the restaurant between 5 and 6 times over the course of the time that we're open, which if you've ever worked in a restaurant, that's a lot of flips. That's a lot of work. You're hustling all day. And so we added in a bonus structure that any day that we hit 200 people or more, everyone who worked that shift got an extra $2 an hour. So it gives this boost of we're all in it together. We're working hard together. When we hit that goal, because you really can't hit that goal unless we're all as a team doing the work and pulling our weight, then we all get to reap the reward. And it's a win for the business because we do more people, we bring in more income, but then it also is a reward that the whole team gets to experience together as well. Secondly, we want to promote boundaries within our work environment. What do I mean by that? There's a lot of different ways that we can set boundaries, but I think a big one in encouraging people to actually be invested and engaged when they're within our work walls is encouraging them to keep work within these work walls. Especially in America, we are bad about expecting people to take their work home, to work off the clock, to be available at any point when someone needs you. And I think that drastically impacts people's quality of life, but it also pretty dramatically affects your capacity to be present and to be plugged in when you're at work because you don't get a chance to disengage from it. When you're always expected to be on in some capacity, then you're probably always on at about 70% as opposed to the time that you're at work being on at 100% and then getting to be off when you're off. So my encouragement, if you are in a position of leadership, if you're a manager or if you're a business owner, that we work hard when we're at work, and then when your people go home, let your people go home. We don't need to be calling them. We don't need to be texting them. We don't need to be expecting them to take work home and doing it in their off time or in hours that aren't accounted for within their salary. Revisit what it actually looks like practically and realistically for that job to get done. And then that needs to be able to be done while people are still at work. And if it's more than what one person can do, then we need to be able to share the load. If it's more than what you can get done in a day, then we need to figure out how we can distribute some of those tasks to other people who maybe are leaving a little bit earlier or who had less on their plate that day so that everyone still gets to go home and be done. One of the easy ways that I do that is by, like, if it's a non-emergency, it's not something that people need to know urgently, then I write it in a note at work for them to see the following day, or I send them an email. And I encourage people, don't open your work email if you're not here. Then that's something that you can check on your own time. You don't need to read that if you're not at work. Read it when you're ready to read it. And that way people have more freedom and independence in dictating what their work time looks like when they're not at work, which hopefully is nothing at all. Okay, and then very lastly, those are the things that we're wanting to do to prevent quiet quitting from happening in the first place, from promoting and encouraging our team to be engaged and to want to be at work and to want to contribute and give of their time and energy when they are at work. But if you have people on your team who aren't and who have stepped into that quiet quitting posture, I think it's important to recognize as a leader that it is not our job to provide external motivation at all times for our team to want to do their jobs and to want to show up to work and to want to do their work. What we want is to have a team full of people who are internally motivated and who have a level of value and care that they've established for themselves that's going to encourage them to show up and to do a good job. Yes, there are external factors, and yes, we do need to provide appropriate pay. We do need to provide reasonable workplace boundaries. We do need to provide encouragement and support when we hit thresholds and goals that we've been working towards, benefits, etc., things like that. But it's not my job as a leader to pump people up every day and be like, we're going to do it. We're going to work. Let's do it. I need you to do this. Like, to be the cheerleader. At some point, work is still work. And we need to have our own level of inner cheerleader that's helping us to keep that momentum and to keep going. And so if you have someone who's become disengaged, who is disconnected but still fulfilling the tasks, then I think where I've landed is to just let that be. If they're fulfilling the role and it's still doing what the company needs, then to just let that be. I'm not here to try to convince you that your goals should be more than they are, to give more than you want to give. It means that my investment in you as an employee is going to look different than my investment in someone who is equally or who is wanting to invest in me and my business back. But that's okay. We don't need every single person who's on our team to be invested in the same way. That's why there are different roles. That's why there are different responsibilities. That's why there's different pay levels based on what your roles and your responsibilities are. But we don't want to be sinking all of our time and money and energy into people who are disengaged and who are going to continue to be that way, trying to get them to not be that way. We want to put that time and energy into the people who already innately are going to be invested and let the rest of it go. So those are my hot takes, if they are hot takes. Thanks for being here today. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, please drop them below. I would love to hear from you. And if you found value in what I'm talking about today, I would love for you to subscribe and to join this community. We're going to continue to talk about workplace culture over the coming weeks. So if you enjoyed today and found something useful in it, then subscribe so that you get the rest of that content.